Welcome to the Up Podcast, raw real talk on everything young parenting.
From self-care, co-parenting, and family planning, to balancing school, work, relationships, and goals.
Together, we're challenging society's assumptions and building a safe and supportive community for young parents.
One honest conversation at a time. So join us on the journey.
Hey guys, welcome back to another Yup episode. As always, it's Divine.
And I'm Brandy, and today we have our favorite co-host, family member, friend, team member, all the things on with us. We are going to be talking about dating, relationships, healthy relationships, unhealthy relationships. We're going to be talking about our own experiences, other people's experiences. As you all may know, this is Domestic Violence Awareness Month, and so we just want to be sensitive that everybody has their own dating history. And so if anything that we say on here is, harmful, or if you feel any feelings, just take a break. Make sure that you pause, take care of yourself. Let us know. We're willing to help and support you in any way. But I mean, Justice, like what's up, Justice? What are you up to? What's been going on? What's new?
Everybody, I have been in love. I've been really happy. I'm in a new relationship. So I'm in a much different place than I was in the last dating episode that we hosted. It's been fun. It's been a lot of struggles, I think, just navigating out of toxic cycles and behaviors, coming from a very unhealthy relationship and toxic relationship, and now moving into what I consider to be a safe space for me in a healthy relationship. It's been a little, not even just a little, it's been a lot of a struggle to, just hold myself accountable to undoing a lot of the things that I got used to in the past relationship that I was in. And also realizing all men are not the same, which I knew, and I think we talked about in the last podcast, but really holding myself accountable to that and that reality, and that's what it is now. And also believing, in the beginning, there was a lot of belief from my own self that I didn't deserve it, or it wasn't what it was, and it was too good to be true. So I had to really get myself out of that mindset as well. But it's been a lot of fun, and it's been really good, and I'm really happy. But yeah, that's been my life for the past few months.
Love that for you.
Thank you.
All the smiles and glowing.
Mhm.
I love that. I love all the little cutesy, little romantic stuff that you be posting. But I would like to
Thank
take
you.
it back a little bit, kind of like you said in the beginning, when still navigating that, a little bit about some of those unrealistic boundaries that we kind of maybe probably previously talked about, and to
Mhm.
where you're at now. Did you have crossover or any trouble within yourself or your partner kind of having those boundaries in place? And
Mhm.
how did that go about?
Yeah, so in the beginning, I will say we had a lot of conversations, a lot of hard conversations, and just figuring out each other's expectations and what we both weren't looking for a relationship. We weren't looking to date. We weren't looking to be committed. It just kind of happened. So when we started to notice the seriousness of the relationship, we started to have a lot of conversations. And one of the conversations was each other's involvement in our kids' lives and how that was going to look. And one of the unrealistic expectations and boundaries that I had was that my boyfriend wasn't going to be around my daughter for a year. And in the moment when I decided that, it made all the sense in the world to me, because I think I was being very overprotective, and just didn't want to introduce her to something that was new. Just considering all of the possibilities. What if it doesn't work out? I don't want to introduce her to, this person, and she get used to it. She's a baby. I don't want her to be confused. Not really considering that she is on my hip 24/7. I get very little time when I'm not with her. So it just wasn't realistic, especially because it would have, I would have not been able to spend any time with my boyfriend if that were the case.
Yeah.
So that was one of the unrealistic expectations and boundaries that I had set in place. And even with it being unrealistic, my boyfriend was like, okay, like if that's what you want, like it doesn't make sense to me, but I don't want to rush anything. I want you to feel comfortable. I want her to be comfortable. So he, even though he didn't necessarily agree with it in the moment, he was fine with waiting if that's what I wanted to do. Uh, so yeah, I now looking back, I can laugh at it and just ask myself like what was I thinking, because a year is such a long time. I think I was underestimating how much can happen in a year. But they have spent a lot of time together. We all spend a lot of time together. She sees him on a daily basis. They have a really good relationship, so it's going really well. I'm getting over, I think I've gotten over like my fear of like what if this doesn't work out, and what if this, I don't want her to be introduced to anyone, because I feel pretty confident where we're at in our relationship. So, yeah.
I love it. No, I love that for you, Justice. Seriously, I really do. And something that you said earlier of just kind of like undoing some of that learned behavior.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, what's interesting about that is that everybody has a different timeline, right? Like when you first said you were dating, I was like, oh my gosh, yes, go you. Like it was relatively kind of quick and kind of
Mm-hmm.
all the things and unexpected, like you said,
Mm-hmm.
but just so like the boundaries that you knew, the green flags you were looking for, you knew what you or were your non-negotiables,
Mm-hmm.
and it was organic in that way.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas someone like me, I'm like, oh, it's been wait a lot of years. So I won't even say the number of years, but a lot of years, and like finally now I can get a text from somebody and not feel like my heart is beating out of my chest and feeling like nervous or stressed. I can finally be like, okay, I can open myself up. Okay, finally I don't feel so scared about what you're talking about introducing my daughter to people, and not even people, just like the idea that this person is going to be around her and going to be influencing her. And
Mm-hmm.
so what is that going to look like if she really bonds and they do like it doesn't work out? But
Right.
now I feel like I'm in a place where like that's just a part of life. And if that were to
Mm-hmm.
happen, then that's just a discussion that I need to happen because she's gonna have relationships that don't always work. And so
Mm-hmm.
do I need to show her this picture perfect thing, or is it okay that it ebbs and flows? And so I think that just came up for me that process can take months for people, can take weeks for people, can take years for people to get
Yeah.
to that point. And so no matter where you all or we are in our healing journey, that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
And so I love that. I feel like it gives me hope. I'm like
Mm-hmm.
watching, okay, they're good non-toxic relationships out there.
Mm-hmm.
I can't find a healthy relationship. It's not going to be like what it was. I'm not going to be bringing that baggage in like I thought I
Mm-hmm.
would. I'm not going to be like flinching at every little thing that they say or do.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I love that. But like speaking about that, I feel like we should just kind of take a deep dive into just even what like the difference between healthy and unhealthy relationships. I think we've all dealt with unhealthy relationships in one shape or another.
Mm-hmm.
So I really want us to kind of like on Yup, we talk about this a lot and we try and define it, but I'd love for us to define it for ourselves. Like what does unhealthy look like, and what are some of the things that you've experienced or that you've seen that constitute like an unhealthy relationship?
Yeah, I can start. I would say something that came to mind is like just big on control, being able to be yourself and be able to like be confident in the decisions you're making without feeling like anxiety or pressure about hurting someone else's feelings or like what the reaction would be. And that really came to mind when Justice had made a comment about like she still had these boundaries in place, but her boyfriend may have not agreed, but he still like respected them and complied. And like that's so important. And like I carry that with me, even down to like texting back or picking up the phone. And it's just like, if I don't want to do that, like, I don't have to do that. And I don't have to feel like forced or pressured to do anything as simple as texting anyone back, just
Mm-hmm.
because someone may react or feel some kind of way. So I would say just being able to like confidently make decisions for yourself. If you can't do that without feeling like there's going to be a consequence, that is a huge red flag.
Yeah, and I would agree with that wholeheartedly. I think that's a huge red flag. I think coupled with that too is someone who wants to change you. And I was having this conversation with a group of young women that I mentor, because I think when you're in a relationship, it depends. Like if you're in a committed relationship and you're like planning a future together, I do think that there is space for your partner to change you in good ways. So for example, my boyfriend is very confrontational. He doesn't shy away from confrontation, conversations. Like he wants to have it and he's going to address things. Versus me, I came from a relationship that was very the opposite. It was a lot of like text message arguments and things like that. So it made me feel like I wasn't confrontational and I didn't want to have those conversations. So he's changed me in the way that I communicate, and he's definitely helped me communicate a lot more effectively. And I think to be changed in that way, healthy ways that improve the person that you are and the quality of your relationship is really important and really helpful. But I think a red flag in that is someone who was so attracted to your big, bold personality and you being outgoing and you being confident. And then as soon as you get into a relationship, it's the very thing that they start to hate about you and use against you. Um, that was my case. I was dating someone in the past who was attracted to it in the beginning and boasted about it in the beginning, about how confident I was and how outgoing I was and all of these things. And then once we were kind of like locked into a relationship and he felt entitled to me, it was like though all of those things became something that he absolutely despised about me. And so he would try to change me in that way. So I did become like more docile, I toned it down. I didn't share as much. I didn't, I like aside from becoming a mother and kind of losing my identity to that experience, I also lost my identity to dating someone who wanted to change me because they didn't they didn't want to be challenged at all. And I think that's a huge red flag. And I know personally speaking from my experience, it was a red flag that I tried to paint green so many times. And so yeah, I would say control. I think that falls under the umbrella of control too, of just like being attracted to these things and then wanting to change literally aspects of who you are and things that make you you. I think that's a huge issue.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be. I mean, what you all are saying is it doesn't have to be outright. Like it doesn't have to be somebody outright, showing their true colors, or not even outright, being physical with you or yelling at you or whatever. It could be these little
Mm-hmm.
things. Like I don't know, I felt something stir up in my spirit when you were like, you know, arguing over text. I feel like that's the most I mean, as an adult, right? The
Mm-hmm.
idea of arguing with somebody over text where you cannot sense tone, you
Mm-hmm.
do not know what their feeling is behind it, and you're gonna send me 3,000 pages worth of a text message,
Yes. No,
and I'm
seriously, that was me. Like I got so used to arguing over like books. I'm talking
Mhm.
paragraphs, these long messages because it was so normal for me. Like why wouldn't we argue over text? Like there's an issue, there's a problem, we're going to talk about it right now. We're going to argue about it right now. Versus now I'm with someone who's like arguing over text. I'm not arguing over like so much so that he'll say things like I'm taking a break from the conversation. We could talk about it when I get home.
So
Yes,
mature.
And
right?
listen, in the beginning, it was so unsettling for me because
I can
I would literally just like stew and just in my anxiety. Like I would just sit in it of like, okay, well, what is he gonna say and what is he gonna do? Like, is it gonna be, aggressive? And not
Yeah,
because of that's who he is, but because my brain was already so wired to like expect dysfunction and just expect this like aggression. And so now being with someone who's like, I'm not arguing about it over text. We're gonna talk about it in person for those very reasons of like you can't detect tone, you don't know how I'm saying things, you don't know how it's coming across. And he's also very big on body language too. So he's like, I can't see if you have your hands crossed. I can't see, I can't see if you're
yeah,
being defensive or so. It's so different and it makes things so different in your relationship. Um, but that also goes back to that what I was explaining of like trying to unlearn those things, that's been the hardest part for me. Because it's not, in the past, it was like, oh my gosh, like if we wait to talk about it, is he going to want to break up? Is he going to leave? Like, will he leave? Or these fears versus now it's like, it's best for us to take a step back from the situation and take a break and then revisit it at a different time so that it doesn't escalate into these huge outlandish fights.
Yeah. Yeah, I heard somebody say one time it's like in the it's she's married, her and her husband are married, and I think her dad told her that the best way to argue when you're arguing, like when you're married or whatever, is to argue either like in some crazy costume, like a chicken
Mhm.
suit or something, or like naked, right? Or
Oh,
like
yeah.
whatever. And so then it's like, this whole thing of just what does an argument do? Like I've talked to a lot of young parents recently, and a lot of them have said the same thing, where it's like arguments are not bad. I think
Mm-hmm.
that somewhere along the way we make arguing or disagreements bad, but there's
Mm-hmm.
actually a healthy way to argue or disagree.
Mm-hmm.
And I think when you take the like heaviness out of it and just realize, okay, we're going to be different, we're going to have different points of view. If we never have any conflict, that's odd, because when adversity strikes,
Right.
even if we try and keep it all peaceful inside, like adversity is going to strike out in the world, and then how are we going to handle it, right? And so I think
Right.
what you're saying is absolutely true. Just
Mm-hmm.
setting boundaries on how are we going to communicate. We're
Yeah.
still going to have the same feelings we had. We're still going to have this disagreement or this argument, but how can we do it more effectively so that we're not feeling like I'm not feeling attacked, or you're not feeling attacked, or we're not feeling like we're being heard. And then also, so we're not sick to our stomachs all day long. Like what you're saying, like I
Mm-hmm.
know that feeling of just being
Mm-hmm.
sick to your stomach all day. Like, what are they going to say? Oh my God, why are you not responding? Are you mad? Are you going to blow up on me? Are you going
Right.
to do something else? Like what is going to happen, right?
Right.
And so that's important for people to know, that it's not always about what's said or done. It's also about how the person makes you feel. uh,
Mm-hmm.
if the person assures you, like you're saying your boyfriend has assured you multiple times, that even if you're nervous about waiting until you get home to have this disagreement, he's proven time and time again that the things that you're afraid of are not going to happen. And so
Mm-hmm. how
how does somebody make you feel? Do they make you feel reassured that it's okay for us to disagree? Or do they make you feel like, if I don't answer every single bullet point in your 12-page dissertation,
Mm-hmm.
you're gonna blow up on me, or worse, or I'm unsafe, or what is it?
Mm-hmm.
So thank you for sharing that, because I think people need to really understand that it's not, when we talk about like toxic relationships, unhealthy relationships, abusive relationships, it's not always just what TV shows it
Right.
as. It's a little
Yeah.
about the control. It's
Mm-hmm.
forcing you to do things that you don't want to do. It's forcing you to, it's isolating you from your friends and family. It's making you
Mm-hmm.
feel crazy, like the things that you think or say are not relevant, or that, things like that. And
Yeah.
so I don't know, can we talk about some more of those like warning signs? Like what are some of the warning signs that either y'all have experienced or we have experienced, or that you've seen people experience, like maybe that others wouldn't know of?
Mm.
Can share one. I think for myself, speaking from exam or experience, one of my signs was I have very close friends that I share a lot with and I'm very open with. And when I was in this relationship, I did not share certain stuff with them. And at the like during the time, I was like, I'm just like protecting my relationship and like the integrity of like who he is. And but really looking back, it was because I knew it was wrong and was trying to protect him as like a person and protect our relationship. But I knew that the behavior was not right. And so I didn't want somebody else to be like, wait a minute, girl, like that's, that's not normal, or that's not healthy, or that's not adding up. And so there were certain things, like certain pieces of information I just would omit. Like if I was talking about a relationship or talking about him, I helped paint him in this super positive light and tried to help um create like a false narrative of who he was so that people didn't look at him any kind of way. And for me, in the moment, like I said, I thought I was just like protecting our relationship and respecting our privacy in our relationship. But now looking back, it was definitely me trying to like save his ass, basically. Like I knew what I was experiencing was wrong. I knew what I was experiencing was not healthy. And I knew that, especially like my best friend, if I would have shared these things with her, she would have held me accountable, and I called it out, and I didn't want that at the time. So for me, that was a red flag. Again, another, there were so many red flags that I tried to paint orange or whatever. But yeah, I think, like I said, speaking from experience, me trying to like change what the narrative actually was a huge red flag for me.
Wow, that was really deep, Justice. I had to take a second to take all of that in. That just honestly brought up so many things for me. Um, but honestly, that was not like the first time I've been asked that. I've personally been in like toxic and unhealthy relationships. And a lot of the times people ask are like, what were the red signs, the red flags that you've seen? And like sometimes you don't see them right away. And I don't know if it's like a love blinded thing, but also like people are really good at what they do. If they're a narcissist, if they're a manipulator, they would do an amazing job at like masking those traits to the best of their abilities. And I think sometimes we need to give ourselves grace, just like you, Justice, that like not all the time it's our fault. And like it's never too late to pick up on a red sign or a red flag, like no matter how deep of the relationship that you're in. Because for me it kind of was like a flip of the switch. Like obviously there were like little things, but like you said, kind of just being accustomed to those like psychotoxic relationship kind of traits that you would never think would be this big thing until it is.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was really deep, and it's not even something that you have to hold yourself accountable for, because being in those kind of positions, it's a scary place to be, and it's hard to navigate, especially if you have no experience or resources on how to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, I think you're absolutely right, Divine. I think you just gave Justice grace in that moment of like, you didn't have to hold yourself accountable to any of it, right? Other than just however you carry yourself in a situation. But I think that brings us to a good point of just people who are in toxic relationships, unhealthy relationships, abusive relationships. It looks so different for everybody. And again, whether it be somebody is, you know, constantly wanting to argue, or someone is isolating you, or someone is being physically violent towards you, or someone is just making you feel invalidated in who you are, all of those things fall under that umbrella and more. Financial abuse, withholding funds. Maybe, you're a young parent or a new parent who you're not working and your partner is working, whether you're whatever partner you are in the scenario.
Mm-hmm.
And, you're having to ask for an allowance, or you're not getting, whatever it is. And so
Yeah.
when it comes to restricting somebody's ability to just be fully who they are, that's when it turns the tide to like violence. Sexual
Mm-hmm.
violence is that too, forcing anyone to engage in any sort of sexual activity that they don't want to, or is coercive, is also falls under violence. And so just, giving ourselves grace to know that we don't know what each other is going through, what we've been through, but I know that that is something that I've experienced, that a lot of us have experienced, of just feeling like we needed to do certain things to keep another
Mm-hmm.
person happy or to keep them around.
Mm-hmm.
And if I look back on it, like, utilizing my body to do that, or utilizing, whatever, my finances or whatever it is to do that, that wasn't because I just loved the person and wanted to do it out of the goodness of my heart. It was like, this is how I'm going to keep you
You don't
from
have
Mm-hmm.
a choice.
cheating on me every other
Right.
day. This is how I'm going
Mm-hmm.
to keep you from being upset with me. This is how I'm going to
Mm-hmm.
tame the situation, whatever it is. It's like that whole idea of, I don't know, whatever. I just feel like that's important to know. And so giving ourselves grace, like you said, Divine, is really, really important. But it also takes me to the point of like, a lot of people stay in situations for a lot of different reasons. They stay in violent situations and coercive situations and toxic situations, sometimes because they don't see the signs, or they're just like, oh, well, they're a good person, right? Like at the core
Mm-hmm.
of it, they're a good person. Or who I met when I first met them, they
Mm.
were good. And then all of a sudden they turn bad. They'll turn back good again.
Right.
Or for other reasons. Like, I'd love for us to kind of spend some time just talking through that. Like, were there areas in our own lives, or areas in the lives of people that we've seen out in the world, where I guess we can realize that maybe they're in a situation and the world just wants to say, get out, just leave, right?
Mm.
Leave the situation. Why don't you just leave? Why don't you just move? And so what is keeping people kind of in situations that we should highlight here?
Definitely safety. I mean, there's so many aspects that goes into one's exit plan. And I mean, everyone's exit plan looks different, you know. I mean, the first step is like that no contact, making sure, you know, no one knows your whereabouts. And I think that is like the biggest thing for people, because they're scared.
Yeah, I would also add a lack of resources, especially in younger couples, especially if there's a child involved. Um, just not having like a backup plan, like their relationship was kind of all they had to fall on. And
Yeah.
so when they do fall on hard times or they're in an abusive relationship, it's almost easier and it makes more sense to just stay in that because they don't know what's on the other side of it. Um, which is unfortunate. I know in my experience, one of the reasons why I stayed was it wasn't always violent. And I think that was like the imposter. I don't even know if I would call it like a imposter syndrome, but like when I actually did have to file for like a order of protection and those things, it was like sitting down with a domestic violence counselor, and it felt so out of place for me because I didn't feel like you mentioned before, like how TV and things represented. Like I didn't feel like this battered, abused woman. And it's because it happens in so many different forms. Like I didn't have visible bruises, but the mental abuse was there, the verbal abuse was there, and then the physical abuse obviously came a lot later. Um, but it was just trying, and I think that was part of what Demai mentioned, like just him being such a good manipulator that it was kind of, I was like, it got to the point where he didn't even have to gaslight me anymore because I was already gaslighting myself and just in
Yeah.
this toxic cycle. And so one of the biggest reason why I stayed was because of my daughter, because he would threaten so many times, like, I'll just take her, like, I'll take her. And he wasn't from where I was from. He, um, lived in a different city. So it was like, I would get so scared that he would just up and like take her to a different city and I wouldn't know who she was with or who, where she was. And so I didn't know anything about custody. I didn't know anything about custody orders or getting a lawyer or anything like that when I was in my relationship. So him being able to threaten me was like the easiest way for him to keep me around because I had convinced myself like if it means I can stay with my daughter and I can be with my daughter, then I'll just live like this. And I began to convince myself that I was okay with that, until it got to a point where it just wasn't safe for either of us. But I think, yeah, I would say from my experience, um, that was my reason why I stayed. But I would say with other people, it definitely is that lack of resources and lack of safety and security and just not knowing what's on the other side of leaving. Just the fear of that.
Yeah. That's so
Hmm.
true. Not knowing, and you brought up a good point too, because obviously we are all parents. And so that other factor of what does it look like for my child, right?
Hmm.
Because sometimes it is protective for us to even be in the situation to get the brunt of the situation, right? And so the idea that, well, would my child be safe
Hmm.
um, with this person, or if it's the mother or father of that child, and so you you're absolutely right. There's so many factors, and I think that
Hmm.
it becomes so glamorized that you should just leave. Um,
Hmm.
and if you don't, you're not protecting your child. And while protection looks different for everybody, while there is a protective factor of getting your child or children out of the situation, there also is sometimes a protective factor of staying in the situation, like you said, Justice. And
Hmm.
so, I mean, it's important for us to give each other grace and ourselves grace that if somebody that if your friend or family member or whatever is dealing with something and you're just like, just leave, unless you have all the answers and you are funding their lifestyle and protecting
Hmm.
them and all the things, that's just not always realistic. And so how can we love people and care for people and support people and still keep them keep them close so that we know that they're safe, but while also recognizing that until the situation looks like they can get out, they really can't. And even thinking about like shelters, right? There's domestic violence shelters, there's all these different things. And a lot of people have to grapple with the idea of, am I going to take my children to a shelter? Right? I'm going to go from maybe my household that's comfortable to a shelter. And even if I do get over that hump, then are there any available? Are they open? Or
Right.
do they have a bed for me and my child? Do they
Mhm.
take children?
Mhm.
If I'm a man, a dad with children, do they take dads with children? Like,
Mhm.
there's so many factors. And so I think that that's really important. There are domestic violence hotlines out there. So I would love for everybody to just, we'll link it and all the things, but I would love for everyone to just have that as a resource and know that we have resources too. But there's a lot that goes into it, and there's not one clear sign. Like y'all
Mhm.
said, there's not one clear exit plan.
Mhm.
Um, and so just, knowing what you all know and knowing what we all know, what are some things that you think contributed to this stage, right? Going through toxic and unhealthy relationships, what are some things that contributed to healing? And to kind of getting out of that situation? How did you get out of your situations? What was the breaking point? If you'd like to share, and then kind of what did the healing journey look like to get you to where you are now?
Mhm.
I can go. I would say for me, how I was able to leave my toxic situations was definitely my support system. I'm very thankful for them because honestly, if it wasn't for them, I probably could have been in that relationship still. Um, but having people to, start up with again, because that's really what it is, starting over. Um, and also my daughter, and it's crazy to say because sometimes I think about it, and this kind of ties into my healing journey, but it's crazy to say, like, if I did not have my daughter, like, looking up to me as a role model, like, would I have still allowed myself to been, like, blindly in love and, abused for the sake of loyalty and love? Because now at
Mhm.
this big age, like, I've learned that, like, love is not enough. Like, you can
Mhm.
love somebody and they are still not good for you or a good person.
Mhm.
Um, but I think for my healing journey, just really battling like self-love and self-worth, and really forgiving myself. Because I'm often reminded by like different sayings of like, you pick these relationships that you think you deserve. And like there's little pieces of truth in that, just thinking like, is there better out there, or, kind of like a fear of the unknown kind of thing. But I think just, constantly reminding yourself like you deserve the world, like you are human, and not taking on the shame that somebody like put on you.
Mhm.
Constantly like am battling myself, and kind of like you said, justice, it leaving these relationships, you are, battling with self identity and the loss of that, and kind of just reintroducing yourself to yourself, or at least like the best parts, and like just picking up where you left off. I'm still in the midst of healing, like years into this, it still feels like yesterday, and that's crazy too. But just trying to like not carry that with you in your everyday, and like knowing that that was a season, and it has brought me to the person that I am today and back on path of where I need to be. But really just loving yourself, because at the end of the day, like no one else can do that for you if you can't fulfill that for yourself.
Yeah, I share quite a few of the same sentiments as Divine. I think for myself and my own personal healing, I just got to a point where I was just so fed up with things, and I think it was how everything played out. So when the end of my relationship happened, my daughter was almost turning 2, so I consider myself still fully postpartum at that time. Um, and I didn't know who I was. I didn't know what I liked to wear anymore. I didn't have any hobbies. I didn't have a life outside of being a mom. And at the time, it was okay because I was enjoying like toddlerhood and her like getting bigger and all of these exciting milestones in the first year of life. And then it got to a point where I was like, okay, I'm so tired of feeling like down on myself. I don't know who I am. I don't know what I like. When people ask me about like, what do you like to do? Like, I would dread that question because I'm like, I don't know. Like, I genuinely don't know. And so, like I mentioned previously, the loss of identity of becoming a mother, and I think that's inevitable. You lose a little bit of who you were before when you have a child, coupled with the loss of identity of dating someone who just did not like who I was and who wanted to change that. It was a lot. So I felt like there was so much that I was battling with. Um, and so when my relationship ended, for me, I think I was lucky in the sense that I was already over it. Like the love was gone. The love had been gone for months before it actually like blew up. So there wasn't like a heartbreak phase or like me being sad about it. It more so was I felt sad about how it happened and having to like abruptly move back in with my parents and have to like pick up another job and start working more than I was. So there were different parts of that journey that I was mourning just for the way that it happened. I didn't think that I still don't believe that I deserved the way that it happened. Um, and I don't believe my daughter deserved it either. But part of me healing and getting over it was being so like passionate about just joy. Like I think I deserve joy, and like you guys see me post about it and like talk about it. I think everyone should do like silly little things that bring them joy like on a daily basis. And so I just started making that my mission, like just romanticizing my life and doing things that maybe seem like frivolous or like silly to other people, but it just makes me happy and content. And it through that, like just seeking joy and prioritizing it, I think that it's really helped me heal in that way, and figure out what I like and what I don't like, and like build a little community of people who share the same similarities and things that also bring them joy. But I also, to Divine's point, I don't think I wouldn't say I'm done healing because I don't think we ever really finish healing. I think it's just something that you continuously do. And it just keeps like evolving and it'll change and something else will happen and then you'll heal from that. Like, I
Yep.
don't think I've never thought that it has a beginning and an end.
Yeah.
So for me, I know that it's different. And I know that I'm on the other side of it because of how I feel, how I look, how I move through the world, how I'm able to help support other people. And I was actually just talking about this today with coworkers. I think, like I said, I stand 10 toes on the fact that I did not deserve what I went through. I don't believe that I deserve what I went through, but I'm happy that it happened because the life that I have now is so much more fun, so much more, like I'm feeling so much more fulfilled, so much happier. And I do think in my case, I know a lot of people find this like unpopular to say, but like I think that what has happened in my life happened for a reason.
Mm.
So I just stand on that and I really try to just prioritize myself and my joy and my mental health and all of those things.
Yeah. Joy. I love
And,
that. I feel like last year, at the end of last year, I feel like I was saying the same thing. Like I need to actively seek out joy last year.
mm-hmm,
When I actively sought out joy this year, I felt more grounded in who am I? What do I like to
mm-hmm,
do? And still, but also Divine and I just talked about this on like a past episode just a couple weeks ago, where we talked about the idea that at the beginning of the year where we were and where we are now, things haven't necessarily gotten better, right? Like the things in the world haven't gotten better necessarily. Maybe we're still healing from whatever situation. But I think what time does and what healing in time does is that it shows us like what we got through and that we can get through it again.
mm-hmm,
Um, and that we are resilient and that we can, you know, press on and find ourselves again if something kind of takes us off of our rocker. And I think we need those constant reminders, right? Because if something came in your path tomorrow that made you not feel confident, like you have a firm foundation that you've built this
mm-hmm,
year where you can
mm-hmm,
bring yourself back. And I think that that's important. If we don't ever have adversity, we never learn those things. So you're
exactly.
absolutely right. I think that
And
that's great.
I think too in the context of relationships and dating, it's also a blessing because now I know for 100% certainty. There are things I'm just not going to deal with, not put up with. I have firm non-negotiables. Before, I was like, oh, I don't really care about being married. I don't care about being a wife. Let's just see where it goes. And like, I had such loose standards and expectations and kind of just was like going with the wind because that's what I allowed. Whereas now I'm like, no, I'm 26 and I have a child. Like, I'm not gonna just see where it goes. I'm not gonna just be dating for fun. Just, you know what I mean? Like, just dating to pass time. And I'm not trying to paint red flags. Not to say that I think there are red flags, but I'm not, if there were a red flag, I'm not gonna try and paint it orange or yellow or green. It's just
Absolutely.
gonna be a red flag.
What shade?
So
Chartreuse? Like, what shade of red do you want?
right, it's just gonna be red. So there's not that, and it also too, I see my relationship in a different light. There's a different respect that I have for my boyfriend that I didn't have before. It was kind of just like, yeah, like if we're having an argument, I'll talk shit about it and I'll talk shit about him. And like, I don't care because there wasn't that foundation of like, we're a team and we're choosing each other. And that's how it is for us now. Um, so there's a lot that I learned from the past relationship that I'm using now, actively using now, that I think is really helpful. And with that experience, I know for sure like what I do not want, which I think is a blessing.
I
Yeah.
love that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I would just say, and if you don't, these kids will humble you. Okay. These kids are so smart. My daughter is getting so big, she will tell me she'll remind me of my relationship and just be like, oh, I would never. Tuh, I would never.
Good.
Like, thank
Good.
you.
Right. Like,
Thank you,
please.
twin. Thank you, twin. I needed that.
Right.
That
No,
there's
seriously.
like, do you
They're
realize?
watching you.
Yes, but do you realize that all that we do as parents is for that reason, right? We
Mhm.
do all these things. We're trying to protect them from this situation. We're trying to teach them this thing, and we're trying to keep them away from this thing. And you're absolutely right. Like, I have a teenager now who's fully in her dating girl era, and she reminds me every day that she's further along in her journey than me. So
Yeah.
fine, whatever. But there's so many things that she is like, ooh, do you know what so and so said? You know what? So I think things like that, right? We're teaching our kids, teaching them like they should always learn from us,
Yeah.
always. One thing that I teach my daughter all the time is like, your body is sacred for you. It is not something that you need to use to keep somebody, to attract somebody, to
Mhm.
anything other than your own self.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
so I teach her that through my own experiences. So I think that
Yeah.
what Dynasty is, when she's calling you out, it's like, yes, maybe you sometimes feel some sort of things like, I wish she didn't know, or I wish she wouldn't. But realistically, your experiences are also teaching her her own standards. And
Mhm.
that's all we can do as parents is just try and
Yeah.
do better for the next generation, you know?
Mhm. Yeah, I think with us all having daughters, it's extremely, extremely important that we lead by example and
Yeah.
also just have conversations before. I know we've had conversations on the podcast and just like outside of the podcast of being transparent with them about, because I've had many conversations with parents who kind of shield their experiences from their kids, and to each his own. But I know myself as a parent, I think being transparent and real and this is what I did, this is why it was dumb, this is why, you know what I mean? Like just sharing experiences. And also too, what you said, Brandy, I think it's so important at the youngest age they're able to understand like your body is your own and you don't need to use it. And because that was another thing in my relationship where I didn't know at the time. I guess I didn't know, I don't know, but at the time I felt like if I said no to his advances, it was going to cause a fight.
Mm-hmm.
So I just said yes to
Yeah.
avoid a fight. And now looking back, it was like, you shouldn't be coerced. You shouldn't be forced. If somebody, like if someone does initiate something and you say no, and they withhold affection from you or they withhold communication from you, like that within itself is a form of abuse, and that within itself is a big red flag and is not normal. So just teaching autonomy and like you don't need to use your body as a pawn or to save anything is really, really important.
Yep.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
just really quick. As much pressure as having a kid has in these situations, as much like harder as it is to navigate, let that be like your biggest motivation. Because honestly, if it wasn't for having to be, a role model and really taking that serious and, wanting to do the best as a mother, I would have been neglected myself a long time ago. So always remember to be yourself, but also know that like they're looking at you. So keep that in mind and knowing that
love is respect too. Like love
your kids deserve that.
Yeah, we deserve it. Our kids deserve it, but love shouldn't hurt. Like, what is that thing we also like? Love is pain or love is something. No, love shouldn't hurt. Like, it shouldn't hurt. It shouldn't be painful emotionally, physically, nothing, mentally. So
that and love is not enough. Okay.
And love is not enough.
No, seriously.
Yeah. So, but we know that it's easier said than done. So at the end of the day, we have all the resources. We got you. Message us privately, whatever it is that you need, because there are a lot of situations. There are a lot of people that we've come across, a lot of young parents that Divine Injustice have come across who they have really helped to support get out of situations and give resources and things like that. So we got you.
And you're not alone. You don't have to go through this alone.
Yeah.
Well, until next time, thank you, Justice, again.
Of course. Thank you.
Okay, bye, y'all.
Bye.
Bye, guys. Till next time.
If you enjoyed the Up podcast, please subscribe, share, and leave a comment.
And visit youngunitedparents.org for the information, community, and resources young moms and dads need to thrive.